Sorry, DCJ, can I just follow up on that issue? I do have another question, but I think I shouldn't miss the opportunity. I think when you answer the question, could you also address my discomfort? When you give us the breakdown of the composition of the court, and you break it down to vendors and shangans and pedis, are you not reinforcing tribalism?
I'm not reinforcing tribalism. Those are the practitioners who are practicing within the division. Within the lower courts, we are mostly they are them. They are the one who are practicing. And if we exclude them, we are making them to feel inferior, because in that province, whether we like it or not, they are mostly they are mostly in the lower division, and also the practitioners from that division mostly is from those tribes. So without saying that they must exclusively be them, we must also embrace everyone.
No, I mean, I'm sorry, DCJ. You know, I really am struggling to understand your resistance to this. You even say that this is becoming a petty court. I'm just finding it astonishing in a new South African JSC to hear that language. Don't you see anything wrong with that?
I take note of your concern, but what I was raising is what I have observed when I went to the interviews to be appointed as a judge.
Thank you, Mr.
I'm sorry, I don't understand that question. What observation did you make during your interview?
There was a circular which was circulated the time I went to the interviews to be appointed as a judge, that PD judges are going to be appointed.
So what does that have to do with anything?
I don't hear that, DCG.
What does that have to do with anything? What is the relevance of that?
It was like we are prioritizing the PD at the exclusion of others.
And where did that document come from?
It was anonymous.
Oh, all right.
Deputy CJ, can I follow that? And thereafter ask my question. Now, following on this question, if you are appointed as JP of that province, are you not concerned that there is going to be another anonymous pamphlet saying, here is a petty judge now appointed as our leader?
Unfortunately, currently, they are the one who have been appointed. I'm already in. Actually,
why are you bringing this point and you feel so much strong about it?
No. It's not a question of feeling strong. It's a question of raising what it has already come out in the public. But I take note and I respect the comments by the commissioners.
CJ is fine. If you allow me, can I follow up on my question?
Judge Khanya, I was asking this guy if we'd interviewed you 5 years ago, and he said yes. And you didn't bring to our attention about this non-existing pamphlet you're talking about. Why didn't you raise it when you came for the interview here, that there is a pamphlet about pedis and all of that?
Commissioner, I did not. I've seen that pamphlet, and I could not have raised it because it was anonymous.
But why are you raising it now?
I'm raising it because it is the way the question have come. But I accept that it is how it should have been done.
Can you please withdraw that and apologize, because you can't raise issues of tribalism in a manner in which you did here?
I accept that, Commissioner.
Please withdraw and apologize. The public is watching this.
I withdraw and apologize.
Thank you.
Thank you, DCJ. I hadn't actually intended to ask a question, but I think I've been called out.
Oh, sorry, I thought your
Let
hand
me
was
ask the
up.
question nevertheless. I do have...
You are like a person who joined the church today and asked, where are the pastors sitting?
But if the DCJ is giving me an instruction, then I'm not in that position, Commissioner Malema. I suppose I've got just 2 points I would like to explore. The one is in relation to what you were discussing with Commissioner Malema.
Yes.
The Ngcukaitobi case you referred to found that even though the IEC hadn't complied with Section 16.3, that's the requirement for the confirmation of addresses, the court could suspend that obligation and allow I think it was August 2016 elections.
Yeah, 16, yeah.
2016, yes, to carry on. Now, the legacy of that judgment has been debatable because some people have argued that the court has no power under Section 172 to suspend a statutory obligation. But then matters came to a head when the Constitutional Court had to deal with suspending an election entirely, which was in COVID. What is your view on this tension between the power of the court to decide a matter upfront, that we can see the election won't be free and fair, but the preference of the Constitutional Court in the last judgment is, well, let's do that exercise afterwards and not before?
Now you are referring to the case that was referred by the IEC to postpone.
Yeah, the
after
IEC
Mosanega's
versus
report.
Electoral Commission versus Minister of Ngcukaitobi.
Kokta. Yes. You see, again, I understand where the court was coming from in that case, because once a date for election has come, then you have to hold the election, unless, of course, something which was pointed out by CJ, the Chief Justice, in his dissenting judgment, if unless something extraordinary occurs that will necessitate the postponement of the election, and the election which will render election not being fair, free and fair, you have to hold the elections.
Yes, I understand that's what was found in Electoral Commission versus Minister of Ngcukaitobi.
Yes.
But the tension I'm pointing towards is the tension from the judgment of Justice Mogoeng in Ngcukaitobi,
Yes.
who says that you are not complying with Section 16.3 because you don't have residential addresses. But the court has the power to suspend the obligation to comply. Are you saying, what is the way of resolving it jurisprudentially? One way, which I can propose, maybe you can look at it, is to say the judgments are distinguishable because Ngcukaitobi was about suspending a statutory obligation, and that Electoral Commission versus Minister of Ngcukaitobi was about suspending a constitutional obligation under Section 159. And to that extent, although you have some power to suspend a statute, but I think even that reasoning is very thin. And that's why I'm trying to tease out, as the person who's going to be presiding over this court, what are your actual jurisprudential views?
Sorry, I didn't understand your question clearly at first. Well, in Ngcukaitobi, you were dealing with legislation, non-compliance with legislation. And that non-compliance was was invalid. But,
Sorry, was what?
well, that non-compliance let me just take it a step, move a step further, because I'm confusing myself now. You see, in Mhlophe, addresses had to be verified. When the elections were about to be held, they hadn't been verified. The IEC had not done what it had been mandated to do. In Mhlophe, it was easier for the Concord to suspend the non-compliance because it was dealing with legislation. Whereas in this case, IEC versus Minister of Culture, it was dealing with the Constitution. So it cannot, because it was dealing with Section 159 of the Constitution. So,
Yeah, so sorry, before you continue, this is the last part. I mean, that is the distinction.
Yes.
But I want to know, why does it matter from a jurisprudential point of view? Because it's still the language of Parliament that you cannot have an election without addresses.
I must be honest with you. It's something that needs the attention of the Concord. But from where I'm seated, it's much easier for the court to ignore the non-compliance in order to comply with to ignore the non-compliance with national legislation in order to comply with the constitutional provision. That's how I see it. We've got the national legislation versus the Constitution. So, which is more important? Is it the national legislation or is it the Constitution? So I think that approach of the jurisprudentially, I would support that approach of the High Court because of the Concord, because it was saying to itself, okay, we have got a situation here. There is an non-compliance with the legislation. Can we ignore it? To ignore it, it will mean that we'll be able to comply with the Constitution. Whereas if we don't ignore it, then we won't be able to comply with constitutional provision. So it was caught in a sort of a hard place. But I think that it had to make a choice, and that choice had to depend on the paramountcy of the legislation that was before, and I needed to choose between the two legislation that it was confronted with.